It is a pleasure to have you back on the channel, XRP holders. Let's have a conversation regarding the current state of the XRP pricing as we move closer and closer to the starting time of Saturday morning. It is reasonable to assume that you are aware of the current state of the market as a whole at this time. Additionally, we are witnessing a tremendously green day across the board. On your own, you may notice a significant number of coins going up quite a bit. All over again, this is a constant reminder for you guys to kind of zoom out, and you are going to really see that on a monthly timescale. We are still trying to see no substantial pullback for a lot of coins, but yet, it was a massive day, and, that general momentum is still moving on as we are starting off the new weekend. Just to reiterate, before we go any further, I would want to make a quick disclaimer. Anything that is discussed on this channel is not intended to be taken as financial advice. When you are investing in cryptocurrency, you should always conduct your own research and due diligence. On the other hand, the price of XRP as of the 8th of November was 2.33, which represents an increase of 4.1% in terms of the USD, and it also represents an increase of 3.7% in terms of the Bitcoin, because the valuation is getting close to $140 billion. It is also important to have a look at this if you are considering the 24-hour trade volume, which is approximately 5.7 billion. Almost half of all investors in exchange-traded funds intend to purchase a cryptocurrency exchange-traded fund. A recent study conducted by Schwab indicated that 52% of respondents want to invest in equities exchange-traded funds, ETFs, in the United States. 45% of investors intend to purchase cryptocurrency exchange-traded funds, ETFs, tied with bonds for second place. 57% of millennials have indicated that they intend to participate in cryptocurrency exchange-traded funds, ETFs. As Eric from Bloomberg puts it, it is astonishing to see cryptocurrency associated with bonds, which is a significant punch above its weight. Cryptocurrency exchange-traded funds are rapidly becoming more mainstream, and in my opinion, the emergence of these exchange-traded funds, ETFs, is just getting started. And I believe that, as time goes on, we are going to see this become the standard. Now, obviously, this is a very significant matter, but take a look at this. JP Morgan has just disclosed that they have an exposure of $343 million in the IBIT Bitcoin ETF. This represents a 64% increase since the month of June, guys. The largest bank in the world is currently amassing Bitcoin, and this very same bank was opposed to the cryptocurrency sector in general just a few years ago. In spite of the fact that you are currently witnessing a great deal of support for the sector, you might say the same thing about a great number of industry executives, not only within Bitcoin, but also within a great deal of digital assets. And, they are developing platforms for digital assets and so on and so forth, because they are aware of the direction in which this market is actually heading. In addition, when you consider it in relation to the other markets, you will notice that we are still quite little in contrast to those other markets. Nevertheless, have a look at this. As stated by Nate, Wisdom Tree submits a file for CoinDesk. You should be aware that the 20 ETF will hold the 20 digital assets that are eligible for inclusion and are the largest by market valuation. In the index, it is evident that CoinDesk is making a concerted effort to position itself within the cryptocurrency indexing area, which I believe will expand significantly. Are you aware of what the meaning of an index is? Therefore, index is also very large because it provides individuals with increased exposure. If, for example, you purchase an exchange-traded fund, ETF, that is, pretty much constant, like in an index ETF, you are consistent of numerous coins that, in this particular instance, would make up that particular ETF. Taking a glance at the breakdown here, you are familiar with index, so be aware that the breakdown is located here. As you are aware, Bitcoin is currently at 31%, Ethereum is at 21.38%, XRP is at 19.6%, and Solana is at 13.63%. Please keep in mind that you are familiar with the comparison between Solana and XRP. This is something that we are beginning to hear fairly frequently because, as you are aware, the Solana chain itself is quite vast. And the native token at this point is, you are aware of one of the assets that has performed exceptionally well in the cryptocurrency market over the course of the past 1.5 to 2 years. Therefore, be aware that the comparison is unavoidable. You should realize that even from the perspective of the institution, you should be aware that the interest that you are seeing within these coins is significantly substantial. Moreover, it is clear that Solana is in possession of that exchange-traded fund ETF, and the amount that Solana is generating for the ETF is very remarkable. After that, the question that naturally arises is, whether or not XRP is going to achieve that level of success and even higher. Therefore, this is where the comparison can be found. Furthermore, once the XRP ETF does finally launch, it is going to be a really exciting time. On the other hand, have a look at this XRP ETF that is discussing that. To let you know, Canary Capital has announced that the Canary XRP ETF will soon be available. You are able to see this information in its current state. However, the information contained in this prospectus is incomplete and may be subject to modification. Prior to the effective date of the registration statement that was submitted to the Securities and Exchange Commission, the securities cannot be sold. It is important to keep in mind that there is still a possibility that we will experience a minor setback in the middle of this process. Nonetheless, I believe that it is unavoidable at this time, given the circumstances. It would be incredible to witness the introduction of an exchange-traded fund ETF for XRP, which may perhaps take place at the end of the month. However, let us proceed with our examination of this matter. As you take a look at the Evernote XRP poster, you see that our team is experiencing a moment of pride in the middle of Times Square. I would want to express my gratitude to Nasdaq for honoring this momentous achievement and providing a warm welcome. We take great pride in the fact that we are in the process of constructing an active digital asset treasury that is centered on institutional demand tactics and ecosystem actors. And it is important to keep in mind that Evernote is a company that is in the process of constructing the largest treasury for XRP. It is evident that they have one public, and this is pretty much their banner on Wall Street. That's not Wall Street, I'm sad to say. You can see for yourself that they have pretty much had their banner pretty much on there, which is quite a remarkable thing in and of itself. This is the office of the Nasdaq, according to you. Nevertheless, have a look at this. Toward the smoke. The Ripple technology outperforms both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I can say that with regard to the technological element, I believe that we haven't really even tested the potential of that just yet, but with regard to XRP, there are no indications that a value bubble is developing. I believe that when the green light is given to institutions, and most significantly financial institutions, then is the point at which you will be able to see the technology itself really begin to gain momentum. But before we get into it, let's take a look at what's going on with the cryptocurrency market, which you can personally observe. Continued declines in dominance. Over the course of the past 24 hours, dominance has experienced a significant regression. That is a significant trigger behind a massive green day, as you can see across the board, as I mentioned in my HBAR update. In addition, the Internet Computer Update is another factor that contributes to this. On the other hand, as you can see from the arrow that I drew in my most recent update, this is pretty much signaling that Bitcoin is still not in the safe end of the spectrum. Bitcoin is here and you can see it for yourself. I'm going to get rid of these drawings since I think they could be confusing to you folks. In that case, let's get rid of this, shall we? Therefore, the price of Bitcoin is still circling around the $100 to $300 mark at the moment. In addition, we are a long way from reaching the level of 23.6 that is considered to be the bare minimum necessary. In order for me to be bullish, we need to get confirmation that is higher than 117. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is not even close to reaching the 23.6, and yet you are seeing so much green across the board with a lot of alternative cryptocurrencies experiencing gains in the double digits. This is because of the domination, as you mentioned. The reason I drew this here, however, is because let's suppose Bitcoin starts to hover below the previous level. You are aware that the 38.2 falls back into the 0.50, which would cause the price to fall below 100,000. And I continue to believe that it is quite feasible if something like that were to occur. I believe that a dominance could emerge. You are aware of this, and it is something that I would like you to keep in mind. On the other hand, there are those analysts in the cryptocurrency world who are, regardless of whether or not the alternative coin season has started, you are aware that we are going to start to see the alternative coin season really close to the beginning of January. And then, you know what happens? Historically speaking, in the many bull markets that have come before, we have witnessed something very similar taking place. Pretty much just seeing things kind of